Hey, what's up everybody? Steve Outtrim here with a CryptoBeast number 4. As you can see from the lack of tarot cards behind me, I'm on vacation. I'm here in beautiful Tahiti. And I wanted to talk to you today about Bitcoin Cash. There's been quite a lot of press recently about potential insider trading at Coinbase related to them listing Bitcoin Cash as the 4th currency on their exchange. And I did a post on Steemit recently, Bitcoin Cash, insider trading, pump and dump or conspiracy, where I examined in some detail these allegations. And what happened was that people noticed that the price of Bitcoin Cash started to move dramatically about 5 hours before Coinbase made their announcement. And because of that, there was a lot of talk on Twitter, other social media, saying what's going on, Coinbase insiders trading in Bitcoin Cash. And the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, was actually forced to make a public statement. And he said that he had been issuing instructions for a month to Coinbase employees that they could not trade in Bitcoin Cash. Their policy is an employee trading policy that prevents that sort of thing happening. He sent them multiple emails. He had staff meetings where he went through it all. And there's been one piece of evidence presented to support these claims of insider trading by Coinbase employees, which was a post on Reddit saying Bitcoin Cash is soon to be added, and the commenter said, "I have a friend at Coinbase." But in fact, this post was on a Reddit discussion of Ripple, XRP currency. There's no evidence that, first of all, that the statement is true. Secondly, that either the commenter or the employee at Coinbase that passed the information on traded in Bitcoin Cash at all. So I find that evidence to be pretty flimsy. And applying logic and reason to it, it really doesn't stack up. Bitcoin Cash's price started to move 5 hours before the announcement, but so did Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price dropped by 9%, quite dramatically. And the amount of volume being traded on this day was also spectacular. The volume of Bitcoin was close to $12 billion over a 24-hour period. And Bitcoin Cash going above several $1 billion as well. Coinbase has about 106 employees, so for them to be insider trading, even assuming every single one of them was insider trading, each one would have been trading with a portfolio of perhaps $400 million or more at a Bitcoin, and then trading into Bitcoin Cash with trades of above $100 million each. Now that just doesn't really make sense to me. It doesn't add up in the light of reason. So in my analysis, I went and had a look at, who are the people behind Coinbase and who are the people behind Bitcoin Cash. And behind Bitcoin Cash, you have Roger Ver, John McAfee, and these two guys are billionaires. Well, McAfee is probably a billionaire. He sold his company, McAfee Antivirus, to Intel for $7.7 billion in cash. Roger Ver was sitting on a hoard of 300,000 Bitcoins, and he said earlier in the year that his intention was to manipulate the price of Bitcoin with his stack. And in fact, there's quite a lot of evidence that suggests he at least attempted to do that. There's transactions that have been found that I linked to in my article saying that he moved 25,000 Bitcoins into a trading account, presumably to dump on the market. I mean, they're talking about $500 million, $500 million worth of Bitcoin. So that type of volume being sent, suddenly being sent to sell orders on a market could definitely move a market. So we have the guy saying that he's going to do it, and he certainly has the means to do it, and as a promoter of Bitcoin Cash has the opportunity to do it as well. Both Ver and John McAfee have been convicted as criminals. In Ver's case, it was for trading in explosives, believe it or not. He got 10 months for that. In McAfee's case, it was possessing guns in his car while he was pulled over for a DUI. And John McAfee's also on the run from the government of Belize, who wanted to investigate him over the murder of his next-door neighbour, who McAfee admits killed his dogs. So, these are quite colourful characters in the world of Bitcoin, and they've also teamed up with a guy called Whoo Whoo, who's the owner of Bitmain, which is the largest manufacturer of mining rigs in the world. And he is also in control of the largest amount of mining pools in the world. He controls about 29% of all the transaction hashing power in the Bitcoin network. So these guys, Whoo, McAfee and Ver, are very close friends. They've teamed up. John McAfee said, my goal is to become the largest miner in the world. He's already the largest miner in the US. And he said, I'll go where Jihan goes because that's where the money is. And I've got photos in my article of the three of them there at McAfee's birthday, thick as thieves, so to speak. Also involved in Bitcoin Cash, Gavin Andresen and Craig Wright. And Andresen was passed the reins of Bitcoin from the mythical Satoshi Nakamoto. And then he said that Craig Wright was Satoshi Nakamoto. Craig Wright said the same thing as well, but these claims were debunked. They were based on some code that supposedly only Satoshi had access to, which actually was publicly available. So without getting into all of that story, here's two people that have been debunked as fraudsters and saying that they personally knew Satoshi Nakamoto. That's interesting to me because I don't think it is a real person. I think it's a team of deep state employees, possibly working for the banksters out of Switzerland. But there's certainly not a lot of evidence, in my opinion, that Satoshi Nakamoto is a real person or was known to these two individuals. And then you've got these two convicted billionaires and this one 31-year-old Chinese guy somehow in control of the world's mining. Now, is it more likely that these people would be involved in trying to manipulate the price of both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash to their advantage? And by the way, this is a pattern that happened almost identically about a month ago, where we saw Bitcoin spiking to new highs. It went above 10,000 for the first time, and then almost in the same day it went above 11,000 for the first time. And then it dropped dramatically down to 9,500 at the same time as Bitcoin Cash was surging. And Coinbase was frozen at that point, and Coinbase has had a lot of outages in the past month. So was that insider trading of Coinbase employees? Well, again, I mean, what money do they have to trade in such massive volumes? So why would Coinbase be implicated by all of the mainstream media in this insider trading? Well, I think one telling example of why that might be is that in a Bloomberg story on the matter, Bloomberg's journalist said, well, this just shows that we need the SEC to regulate Bitcoin. Regulate for what? Insider trading? No stocks were traded. I mean, this is like a commodity. Is people that are Americans who deal in foreign exchange, are they forbidden to buy US dollars because they're Americans, and then that would be an insider? I mean, it's just a ridiculous claim, and yet made with pure sincerity by the mainstream media. So you have to wonder who has the authority and the power and the ability to come up with a scheme to deliberately manipulate the price, but also to come up with a patsy to blame for this, to throw people off the scent, and to get the mainstream media complicit in then naming that patsy. Well, I don't think that's any one individual, but certainly that is the modus operandi of the intelligence community. This is deep state tactics 101, set up the patsy and then use your Operation Mockingbird media to reinforce the story of the patsy being true. So to me, there's definitely manipulation going on in the cryptocurrency market prices, and I believe the deep state is behind it. On the issue of regulation, does this really show that we need to regulate Bitcoin to stop insider trading? Well, firstly, no, because insider trading doesn't apply to this. It applies to stocks. But secondly, there's also talk of, well, we need to regulate ICOs. ICOs are terrible because people can invest $1,000 and become a millionaire, or businesses that need to raise money can raise $10 million without having to sell off any equity in the company. This must be stopped. This is a terrible scam. This is a terrible fraud. Well, who are the people saying that? They're the big venture capitalists and Silicon Valley and Wall Street insiders who are most likely implicated and culprits in massive scale price manipulation. They're the ones that have the capital to do it. And Wall Street's very threatened by altcoins. Bitcoin, they can kind of embrace it. They can have futures trading. They can bring it into their model. But altcoins and the idea that there is a whole new system to raise money, well, what do we need Silicon Valley venture capital for? What do we need Wall Street for anymore? The people can just go and do this ourselves. It's a decentralized system. And that's what they're really trying to crack down on people. That's really the target of regulation. But, to be honest, the SEC, if they were going to regulate anything, they would be regulating these massive price drops. How can one currency drop so massively, billions, tens of billions of dollars in trade, and at the same time another coin going up so massively, where the people backing that coin have publicly said they are going to try to tank the price of Bitcoin. And there's evidence of them moving coins in that quantity that they would be able to do that. The SEC should be regulating that price manipulation, and leave altcoins alone, leave ICOs alone. There's a whole new economy being built, a whole new source of wealth generation, and that needs to be encouraged, not stopped. Anyway, thank you very much. Please follow me on Twitter, Steve Outtrim, YouTube, Steve Outtrim, and Steemit, Steve Outtrim, and read my Steemit post on this. I've got a lot more evidence, examples, and charts of what I'm talking about. Have a great new year, everybody.